Okay, recording started.
The time is 4 p.m. on November 12th, 2020. Is that time right?
I have 4:06. And Alan, if I could just quickly go over the meeting instructions that are should be posted on your screen. The chat box is only for technical support. And so you may go ahead and send a message to the host, which will be me. If you do have any technical issues, you can also email me at skurz@chulavistaca.gov. The chat box is disabled for members of the public. And you guys do have an e-comment link that we'll post in the, Patricia, if you could post the e-comment link in the chat, I'd appreciate it. And that way you guys will be able to check during public comment sections to make sure that you read any comments that we receive from members of the public. We do currently have one caller on the line as an attendee. If you do want to be recognized by the chair, please physically raise your hand. The meeting is live streamed and it is currently being recorded. You must be muted unless you are speaking, and I'll go ahead and mute you if I do hear any feedback and you're not currently speaking. So we have started the recording, and with that, Chair, if you'd like to go ahead and move forward.
All right. The time is now, I wanted to use your time, 4:07 on November 12th, 2020, and I would like to call the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission to order. In the interest of public health and safety and pursuant to Governor's Executive Order N2920, members of the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission and staff are participating in this meeting by teleconference in accordance with the executive order. The public may view this meeting online, but not in the council chambers. The city launched a virtual commenting portal, e-comment, that allows residents to comment and participate in the meeting from their own homes. You can find the link to e-comment at www.chulavistaca.gov/virtual meetings. Your comments must be received before I call the close of the commenting period in order to be considered. After the commenting period is closed, I will announce a brief pause to allow the commissioners time to read any comments that have been received. If you have any difficulty or need assistance, as Stacy had said, you can email her or email Patricia Salvacion at psalvacion@chulavistaca.gov. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner for the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission, Commissioner Cruz. Commissioner Cruz? Okay. Commissioner de Murguia?
Present.
Commissioner Hernandez-Nader?
Present.
Commissioner Melgoza?
Present.
Commissioner Murphy?
Present.
Commissioner Quiros? Vice Chair Martinez? And
Present.
Chair Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. Now for the Commissioners on Aging.
Commissioner Allen?
I don't think we have a quorum of them at this point. If you want to go ahead and read their names just in case I miss somebody, but I don't think we have a quorum. We would need 4.
Okay. Commissioner Allen? Commissioner Corbeil? Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Mallon? Commissioner Persichilli?
Present.
Commissioner Tran?
Present.
And Chair Crawford.
Present.
I did hear from Commissioner Mallon, and she is on the phone. So I'm going to try to get her over as a panelist. So you actually do have a quorum because she is listening, but I am having trouble getting her over as a panelist right now. So I'm going to keep working on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Public comments is the section on the agenda for members of the public to address the board on items that are not listed on the agenda. If it's okay with everyone, I can now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments. And commissioners, as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear. The commenting period for public comments is now closed. Secretary, would you announce for the record the number of comments received?
No comments were received via email or e-comments. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to the action items. Unless, Stacy, were you able to find any more members logging in?
No, we're still working on that.
All right. Well, if it's okay with everyone, we'll move along to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 1. Item number 1, double AARP Legislative Agenda. Blanca Castro, AARP Advocacy Director and Sacramento Metro Manager, will provide an update on the advocacy issues the AARP worked on in 2020 and what they are focusing in on in 2021.
Very good. Good afternoon, Chair Crawford, Chair Rodriguez, Vice Chair Martinez, and commissioners of the Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission and Commission on Aging. It's a pleasure to be here and representing AARP California. We were invited to come and share a little bit about what we worked on in 2020 and then what the focus is in 2021, with the intention that there may be some opportunities for the commissioners to engage in some of these efforts. So let's begin. I'd like to be able to just give you a little background about AARP, also known as ARP. A new term that we use, longevity economy, that I'm going to introduce you to today. And then what we worked on and what was successful in 2020 and how we're preparing to build on those successes for 2021. Next slide. So ARP, it was founded in 1957 by Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus, who was a principal at Lincoln High School in Los Angeles. And with her legacy, we today have 38 million members nationally. In California, we represent almost 3.3 million members. We're the largest nonprofit and nonpartisan organization. That means we don't have a political action committee, and we don't take positions on any candidates. We're dedicated to empowering Americans that are 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. Next slide. So our policies are consistent with our mission, and essentially we want people to have a choice of where they live when they age, as they age. This guides us in our advocacy, both at the state, national, and local level. And it is available to the public. All of our policies, they are online, and the website is listed on this slide deck. It's aarp.org policy book. Want to just share that because we represent 38 million people nationwide, and because we have almost 3 million here in California, before I talk about the longevity economy, as you can imagine, it's a pretty big challenge to address lifestyles and political views of all our members. And so even developing public policy recommendations that serve this diversity, it's a pretty formidable task. We concentrate on issues that are most important to people 50 plus in the community. And we'll talk about what particularly we focus on in California. But overall, we have the policy book that guides us to allow us to engage in any advocacy. Before I get into what the advocacy issues were, the term longevity economy, well, ARP wants to dispel the myth, and I think all of you are well aware that there is a myth out there that as you get older, you need more help, and you can't do anything by yourself, and you're a burden on the economy. So we want to shift the conversation, and we want policymakers, stakeholders, and people who have this perception that really 50 plus and people 50 and older have a significant amount of contributions that we make to the economy. We are living longer, we have healthier lives, and we're contributing to communities and fueling economic growth well past the traditional retirement age. So the longevity economy, what it is, it's a compilation of data that is showing what contribution we are making economically and in terms of our lifestyle. So as we navigate these uncertain times and we're rebuilding the economy, we want to put a face to what it means to be older, because we are not a homogeneous population. We have real diversity in terms of 50-year-olds and above. Next slide. So the longevity economy outlook for California, well, we're going to outsize the economic impact, and it's going to drive economic growth for the next 30 years. Californians 50 and older, we have a purchasing power like no other population cohort in the state. Not only, and next slide, not only are we growing, but by 2050, you're going to see the 50 plus become at least 40% of the overall state's population. And why we need to change the conversation is because policies that support older adults are all that much more important. The kind of contributions we make, for example, and this is I can send you the one pager on California data, but just to give you an example, you're going to see an increase not just on the impact we have on different industries, but also that the jobs that those industries impact. So healthcare, 309% growth by 2050. Housing and utilities, almost 224% growth. And the list goes on. Leisure and hospitality, motor vehicles and parts, and groceries. Next slide. So that's why we have to have these type of data sets and facts in front of us when we're talking to our policy leaders, because they need to understand why it is that Californians care about supporting caregivers. We want to focus on quality and affordable long-term care and health care in the state. We need to focus on protecting the security of older adults, not just older adults, but their families from fraud and scams and elder abuse. We're focused on the autonomous vehicles, ensuring that when they are ready, that they're going to be ready and they're going to be safe, that they're going to be part of the local planning so that local governments can plan along with having driverless cars, e-scooters, e-bikes, walkability. We want to ensure that utilities are affordable and that there is a universal broadband. And telehealth becomes much more accessible to everybody. And without broadband, telehealth still faces barriers, not to mention the reimbursement rate. And then lastly, but just as importantly, if you can go back to the other slide, when we're talking about the age-friendly communities, we're focused on housing affordability and development. And in transportation, that's not just how we get around from A to Z, but what options are available so that everybody can choose how they want to age and have all of those options available to them. And then, of course, you can't forget 50 plus and their families are very much interested in staying healthy and having open spaces wherever they live. Next slide. So some of our advocacy wins this year, keeping in mind the priority areas. When the pandemic hit, we were facing a $57 billion deficit in the general budget and general fund budget at the state. So while we wanted to focus on a number of the issues that we just mentioned, we had to quickly pivot and focus all our advocacy on preventing cuts to home and community-based programs. We know that almost 90%, and this is from our surveys, 90% of our members, they want to age in their home. They don't want to be in nursing homes. They don't want to be in assisted living. So it's really important that we continue to fund home and community-based programs. We also had to focus, and we were able to remove this specific language, but the Department of Public Health had actually issued crisis care guidelines for hospitals that included age as a criteria to determine when there was a surge with COVID-19 patients, that age would be considered in terms of who would receive treatment and who wouldn't. We fought very hard to get that removed. And they went back to the drawing board, back to doing some more research and talking to experts across all of the universities and academic institutions to really find out what precisely was the criteria that could be used that was based on science, not on age. And then the other win we had, many of you may have heard, the governor issued an executive order in 2019, essentially calling for the California Health and Human Services Agency to develop a master plan for aging. As California is going to experience a continued growth in the 50 plus population, we need to create programs and policies across all state agencies, across all programs that keep in mind what's good for an 8-year-old is good for an 80-year-old. Next slide. Thank you. So one of the big wins under caregiving is we got an expansion of job protections. And so not only do we have more weeks for sick leave, more days for sick leave, but we also now have for employers with less than 25 employees, they are part of this protection. And it also includes being able to care for a domestic partner, a grandparent, and a parent-in-law who has serious health conditions. All this, because of the pandemic, made it even more important, but we were already working on it. The one picture I have is the day that we got signing of this landmark legislation, which essentially it protects a job, a worker's job, so they can take sick leave. Governor Newsom and his first partner, Sabeel Newsom, signed it in front of all of these individuals. And as governor said, Californians deserve to be able to take time off to care for themselves or a sick family member without fearing they'll lose their job. And by the way, he himself said he was raised by a single mom and very much understood the need for this law. Another win that we had and that we worked on in 2020, next slide, was California essentially has really stepped up and become a leader in the nation in trying to control the prescription drug costs. So prior to this year, with the passage of AB 852, it's important to note the governor issued an executive order in January 2019 that will create the nation's largest single payer system for prescription drugs. And ARP was one of the advocates who helped pass AB 824 that I reference here, which prohibits pay-to-delay agreements between the brand name drug manufacturers and generic drug manufacturers. So these were things that began to build on that promise that he wants to control the cost of drugs. So what AB 852, next slide, will do is essentially we're going to be able to create our own generic drugs here in California. He created, next slide, Gio. It creates the Office of Drug Contracting and Manufacturing, and it will be under the California Health and Human Services Agency. There will be a contract. It'll be a competitive process, but it'll essentially be, we will contract with a drug manufacturer for generic drugs that will essentially create a label for California. And there are other states along the West that are interested in joining the single payer market. So the intention is increase competition and reduce the cost of the most expensive and most commonly used drugs. Another huge win that I'd like to share is Assembly Bill 890. California finally, after 4 attempts, almost 6 years later, granted full practice authority to nurse practitioners. We joined 28 other states in the nation that will allow and now remove a barrier for nurse practitioners to practice to the full extent of their education and training in California. This is going to take a couple of years to implement, but it was a huge win for California, and it is absolutely going to help increase the provider gap or close the provider gap that we currently have in the state. Next slide. So here's one of the sobering statistics, and this one hasn't changed, but 40% of COVID-19 deaths are in residents in nursing homes and staff, but this is specifically to the residents. The sad part about it is 48% of them are Latinos, with the remainder broken down as you see on this slide. Almost 30% white, 11.8% Asian American, Pacific Islander, and 7.6% Black African American, recognizing that all of those are a smaller majority of the state population, so that is really a significant percentage. Next slide. So what ARP has done is we have a 5-point plan, and we started this just this year, where we are demanding that there be ongoing testing and adequate personal protective equipment, enough so the staff can not have to reuse the personal protective equipment that they're using from one patient to another, and so they're also protected. We also want, and while the state has done fairly good, but there are still assisted living facilities that do not report any deaths or cases. So a facility with less than 50 beds in the state of California isn't required to report COVID-19 cases or deaths to the state or CMS or CDC, excuse me. Virtual visitation was a huge problem and continues to be. Even though when you have a lockdown, they were saying, well, you can still have phone calls. There are some places that have horrible broadband or internet accessibility. There are also some residents who, for a number of reasons, aren't able to use devices. So there needs to be infection control and the ability for people to visit and do social distancing and still be protected so that you don't have the situation you've had this year, which is a lockdown since March of 2020 in some nursing homes. No interaction with their family. We also are very concerned that there needs to be more staff, and we're going to be working on legislation in 2020 to improve the staffing and credentials of staff, and then access to a long-term care ombudsman, but having someone on site, especially during a lockdown. And one thing we were successful with this year is nursing home facilities were very aggressive in trying to get immunity from lawsuits in the event of death that could have been caused by their neglect if it was COVID-19 related. We were able to prevent that with other stakeholders. We prevented the governor from issuing an executive order, and we prevented a bill from getting through. Next slide. So all that to say is one of the bills that was able to get through, Assembly Member Jim Wood, Dr. Wood, passed the skilled nursing facilities and reporting deaths. So now they're required within 24 hours, because that wasn't the case. So we're requiring that nursing facilities within 24 hours report a death that is related to a communicable disease. Next slide. We also, in terms of nursing homes, want to share that what the state will do, as many of you may know, they issue guidance to skilled nursing facilities and on all the other facilities they oversee. So ARP works very closely to provide technical assistance, and we have letters that addressed each one of these things. And I just want to barely touch on these three areas. One was we were pushing for lifting the lockdown and allowing for visitation. And so we provided some guidance on that in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. We also have provided guidance, and it has not been finalized yet, but it's a quality and safety survey model. This is how the state will increase the number of inspectors that go into nursing home facilities, and they will also increase how they're being increase some of the areas that they're reviewing, such as infection control. What does that look like? Do they have a week's worth of personal protective equipment? A number of other things, testing guidelines, visitation guidelines. So it will be much more comprehensive than what they did have. And then lastly, when nursing homes, as many people were on lockdown, they were unable to get to a poll. Yes, many of them may have had absentee ballots, but they still wanted to go to polls, or they still wanted to mail their own ballot. So we provided technical assistance that gave specific provisions and guidelines to nursing home facilities and county public health directors so that people could get to and from their polling site in a safe way if they wanted to leave the facility for that. Next slide. And so for the final 2020 wins, and I just wanted to touch on them. These are other bills that we jumped on. Some of them were specific to COVID, but we now have a student loan debt Bill of Rights in California. The reason it's important for older adults is people who are on Social Security and may have been co-signers on a student loan, and then that loan goes into default, guess whose Social Security check is being deducted? So there's now going to be an ombudsman and an office that's going to oversee this industry that has been practicing some pretty predatory type practices. And then in Senate Bill 1123, it's going to update law enforcement manuals and handbooks, specifically so that it addresses elder and dependent abuse, so that they can know when they see it and know what they need to do to at least report it or get somebody some help. And then the price gouging bill is because we saw prices going up more than 10% for an item that was a basic need, toilet paper, sanitizer, you name it. I know we've all seen it, but there are definitely now there's a law now that will allow for consumers to take action if we're seeing any of this kind of price gouging happening during a declared disaster. And then the parking penalties fee, this was just a COVID one, allowing people to have a payment plan if they have a large number of parking penalties, so that they're not losing their car or going into further debt. And then last, I want to mention, because this is very much important to us, but the electric vehicle subsidies bill, we were opposed to it. Essentially, this bill did pass, it got signed. It's going to allow for localities to have electric vehicle charging stations everywhere. The problem is that consumers still have to pay for the increased rates of electric utilities. And so we're just very concerned that we're subsidizing large companies who are going to be able to come in and build these electric vehicle charging stations. And it's at the detriment of your average consumer and low income consumer whose utility rates continue to go up. And then 2021, we are going to focus on the financing long-term care for the middle income population. You either on Medi-Cal, and Medicare only covers a small portion of long-term care. So there is no long-term care insurance, and we're working with labor, we're working with disability rights, and we're working with other advocates to find that that option for the moderate income Californians to be able to have a way to pay for long-term care in their home or where they choose to live. We'll continue to work on nursing home reforms. As I mentioned, they're quite a bit. Housing affordability and development for older adults. We're working on a broadband access for all, and continue to fight against rate increases, especially as people continue to remain at home and it's only getting more expensive. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. The last slide just has my contact, my email, and then some of the websites where you can go and obtain a lot of the information that was mentioned today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Castro.
Thank you for having me.
It was an excellent presentation. Do the committee members have any questions for staff? Ms. Cruz? Commissioner Cruz, sorry. Could you unmute yourself?
You have to unmute yourself on the computer as well as the phone, Commissioner Cruz.
Chair Rodriguez, I would go ahead and move on to somebody else. If there's any other questions, we can come back to Commissioner Cruz.
Do any commissioners have questions or comments? Commissioner Crawford?
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. I just want to say thank you so much to Ms. Castro for the great presentation. My question is regarding the, let me just go back to my notes.
And Chair Crawford, just for the record, I do want to point out that we were able to move Commissioner Malin over. And so she has been on as a panelist now for the presentation. And so we do have a quorum of Commission on Aging as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. My question was in regards to AB 2644, the skilled nursing facilities reporting death.
Yeah.
I've had experience by doing CPRA on RCFEs through a DSS to see what their numbers were. And as you mentioned briefly in your presentation, that if it's a facility of under 50 and it's less than, I think, 11 deaths, they do it as less than 11 in their data. Is there any action to see what we could do in regards to RCFEs as well? Because that's something I would really like to work on myself.
Yeah, thank you for asking that, Commissioner Crawford. There is absolutely, and that's where, so Assembly Member Jim Wood is the one who got that passed, and we could, it was hard enough to get this one, but we could expand it in 2021, now that this is law, to include RCFEs, because you're right, that's an area that has just as many facilities, and right now they're not being forced, they're not being required to report, and they're getting paid to care for individuals. So absolutely, that needs to be a part of it, and we would be happy to include you, because that is something that we would like to approach the Assembly member to see if this is something that we could do in 2021.
I really appreciate it. I'll definitely reach out for more info. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to comment. This is Commissioner Malgoza.
Good afternoon.
Really, Kai, thank you so much for your presentation. I actually just want to commend as well for those priority areas for advocacy. A lot of those align with equity, not just in access to broadband, but also access to quality healthcare. And so I think that that's exactly what's needed, especially at the local level when we talk about just quality of life and making sure that people have access to be able to safely age at home. And so I don't know if you are reaching out to any kind of healthcare providers like community health centers, but I think we would benefit from just knowing. And I also want to mention my husband is an AARP member, and I am too, as his wife. So we're very involved with the communications that we receive, and we appreciate everything you guys offer to navigate all the different benefits. But I think it's important at the local level to make sure there's some alignment for advocacy as well.
I thank you for bringing that up. If I may just offer, Commissioner, that we do have a presence in the community. And one of the reasons I was invited to present is because Kimberly Smith, who's our Associate State Director here in the San Diego area, in fact, lives in Chula Vista, had invited me. We also have Bob Prath, who's one of our leaders in age-friendly communities and lives in San Diego. So we are very much committed to doing anything we can, because it's at the local level where real innovation happens. And if it can work at the local level, sometimes we just take that and say, why not? So to your point, to the point of even increasing the requirement to RCFEs, it could start at the local level, Commissioner, and then maybe expand that to the state.
I figured it out. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay. Ms. Castro, thank you very much for your presentation. I've had one concern for many, many years, and that is that in nursing homes, there is no mandate to provide vaccinations to the patients. So unless the patient requests it or their doctor directly does it, there's no blanket vaccination. And as I'm sure you know, if one person catches the flu, they all catch the flu, or COVID, or any other type of disease. So I'm wondering if there's anything you can include in your upcoming work to include mandatory vaccinations at nursing homes for all patients and staff. I mean, we require it at most of the hospitals, just, you know, among their own employees, it's required, or they mask up, et cetera. But I mean, we now have it for kids. Why can't we have it for seniors? And they have a very high outbreak number. This is so far being a mild flu year because of, you know, the COVID restrictions, but normally there are outbreaks at nursing homes all the time, very high numbers, and you can look on the health department's website and confirm that.
So, Commissioner, what I can do is go back to the Department of Public Health first. Let me confirm that, because there were a number of changes that were put in place during COVID-19. So that may be something that they're already doing, but if not, and then just real quickly, the governor has created a task force on the COVID-19 vaccine. They're going to be looking at everything and planning essentially how it is stored, how it gets deployed, who are the priorities, and we have a person on the team that is going to be working to stay engaged in that, so that we can advocate and make sure that older adults are at the top priority of getting the vaccination, and how that's going to be, you know, tracked, because you're going to need 2 doses and a number of logistics that have to be in place. But California is well prepared for that. But I would like to get back to you all on whether or not there's a mandate yet for the vaccines. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner, are we set? Stacy, or
yeah, Chair Rodriguez. Was there anybody else that had any comments or questions for Ms. Castro? I'm not seeing anybody take themselves off mute, so I'm going to say that's a no. And just so you know, we did bring this forward so that we could do exactly what you're commenting about tonight. You know, if there's something here at a local level that we feel incredibly passionate about, you know, there's ways to take that forward to our city council and, you know, endorse or oppose certain bills at the state level. So that's something, you know, to continue a conversation with as we move forward. I see that Commissioner De Murguia may have some questions.
Yes, I just had a comment. I really appreciate that. Thank you again, echoing everybody else for your presentation. Unfortunately, I am also an AARP. Not unfortunately, but I'm struggling accepting it. But, you know, approaching 60, I am definitely in the group. But I know the focus now is heavy on COVID. But I really appreciate the focus on the financial aspect as well, protecting seniors, because there's so many predatory people out there. I get calls all the time on many different things, and having just put, as all of you know, or many of you know, I've just put her through college where there's student loan debt involved. So I appreciate the attention to protecting seniors when it comes to student loan debt and how that's handled. So that's all. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Commissioner De Murguia, I do want to share that there's a Assembly Member Ed Chow, not Ed Chow, excuse me. There's another organization, and they have not identified the member in the legislature. It could be Senator Limon, that they want to have carry another bill that will be specifically on predatory practices and scams. So I'll share that information with the commissioners when it's ready.
That would be great.
In case you're interested in joining in support.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Thank you.
So with that, I think we can go ahead and start the 2-minute period because I don't see anybody else with comments.
Okay, that concludes the 2-minute comment period. I don't see any comments.
All righty.
No comments were received via email or e-comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye-bye now.
Did any other commissioners have any comments or questions before moving on to the next item? Okay, seeing none, I will pass the reins over to Chair Crawford. Take it away.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. This is Chair Crawford from the Commission on Aging. We will now move forward to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 2, Proposition 68 Statewide Park Program. City staff will provide an overview of grant applications being submitted for the construction of Patty Davis Neighborhood Park, which is west end of D Street, and improvements at Eucalyptus Park, C Street, and 4th Avenue. The presentation will include a virtual design chariot to solicit feedback on community recreation desires at the parks. Does staff have a presentation for us?
Yes, this is Stacy Kurtz. So I will be doing the presentation on the D Street Park, what we're calling the Patty Davis Neighborhood Park, and then recreation staff will be taking over for the next part of it. So you can go to the next slide. So the Patty Davis Neighborhood Park is located at the end of D Street. There is, so if you go to Zorba's on Broadway and then just head west, the D Street will dead end. And there's a mobile home park to the south, and there was a mobile home park to the north previously that needed access off of that stretch of roadway. But that mobile home park closed to the north and is now a new condominium complex. They take access off of Woodlawn Avenue. And so when that happened, the opportunity came up that we could do something better with this segment of D Street that just simply dead ends and is currently just used for parking. So city staff started working with the community, go to the next slide, to develop a plan to develop this area of the street. And so we went back out in about 2018 and did some community outreach. And at that time, we heard from the community that they were excited about seeing something new in that location other than the dead end street. that there was some concern about parking, but we did do a parking study in that area and determined that there was adequate street parking elsewhere within the community, and so that stretch of roadway was really not needed. There was also a focus about the school being involved that's locally there. Feaster Elementary is just southeast of that location and in walking distance via sidewalk. And finally, people did comment that they wanted to make sure there were eyes on the park. This is a long, kind of narrow stretch of land. And so there was concern about the back end of the park and making sure at the west end that there was activation. And so it was proposed that a community garden be placed down there so that there would be some more activity on a consistent basis. One of the other things that the community looked at were different design options, including parking or not parking at the facility. So in the middle picture, you can see there's a gray area to the right side. And so that was a proposed parking lot. And the community said that, no, you know what, we really don't need that parking there. We really see this as a neighborhood park. Most people are going to be walking to it. And so we would like to get more amenities out of that space rather than a parking lot. And then finally, when we went to council, the city council suggested that we name the park after a former council member, Patty Davis. And so that's why the name that you saw is Patty Davis Neighborhood Park. Next slide. So we did go to council back in January of this year with a proposed design. And the proposed design, as I mentioned, includes a community park on the western side. So that's on the left of your screen. And then as we proceed towards the roadway, you'll see a large turf area so that children can play and adults can play on the turf area. And then there's a gazebo kind of midway through the park that would be a rentable space. And then just to the right of that is a playground structure and also some trails and grassy area. On the north side, you'll see a long trail that goes the whole length of the park. And that includes some colorful elements like hopscotch and other elements for interactive play. So overall, the council did adopt this design plan. And really what we wanted to come forward with today is, go to the next slide. We just wanted to ask you a couple of questions about this design. We are planning on applying for construction funds for this park through the Prop 68 funding. The deadline has been moved from December to March for that funding, so we have a little extra time to do some outreach, but we have done much outreach on this park in particular already. And so tonight we just want to make sure that you feel that this is meeting the community needs. Again, this is in the northwest area near Feaster Elementary School. And so we want to just check in with you to see if you feel that the community garden, the playground structure, et cetera, will help meet community needs in that area. And then also just if you have any input about how you foresee that a school might participate and activate the park, we'd be interested in just hearing that from you as well. So with that, I'll open it up for any comments. And if you want to go back to the previous slide, Gio, just so everybody can see the layout. Thank you.
Hi, this is Commissioner Martinez. I think this is awesome and definitely needed. I think it's something we had brought up in the past when they were building those new condo areas, that there wasn't enough open space built into the condos. So I think it's excellent. I like all the aspects of it. Is the long, I think you mentioned the trail, is that dirt, gravel, or is it like concrete? The one that goes lengthwise to the south?
So I'm going to introduce Patricia Furman. Her name was on the front slide. She's our principal landscape architect at the city, and she knows all of the details of this park. So Patricia, could you help out with that?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Could you repeat the question, please?
What is see like a walkway or a line that goes on the southern part all the way across? Is that dirt, gravel, concrete? What is that?
Oh, that will be a DG trail that will join to the sidewalk, to the concrete sidewalk to the north.
What is DG?
Decomposed granite. It's like a loose material. It's very fine, and you can see it throughout our cities. We use it a lot on trails.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because I was thinking it was concrete, but that's great.
Yeah, the reason why we didn't go with concrete is that, number one, we wanted to provide different materials for different uses. Usually decomposed granite is used when you want to have a softer material for people to jog. And also is less expensive than utilizing concrete. So we were being very careful also with the funding and still providing a good loop that people can use for exercising.
No, I think it's great. I think it's way better than concrete. What is the actual distance that goes across, or the loop?
The loop, you know what? I don't have that information with me, but I can definitely measure that for you and send it to you. Absolutely. The park site is a little under 1 acre. So I would measure that. I'll go ahead and measure that for you.
Okay, thank you. It looks great though.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Mary. I love this. This is beautiful. Patty Davis was a friend of mine. She was a long-term colleague, so it's nice to see something in her honor. I think one of the questions was, how can the schools be involved? And in one of the pictures that you have there, you have kids tending to a garden. And I think that might be something that the school and the students might be interested in, is putting in a small garden, vegetable, garden or something along that line to again promote good nutrition. Food doesn't come from the grocery store. It actually the good food comes from the ground, or animals or whatever. So it would be both educational and could potentially be nutritional, if the kids were allowed to consume what they grow. And I don't know, I could see a lot of little ideas. You could get a nutritionist to come in and explain things to them. That's one way. Obviously, exercise is another way, although some of the schools have cut some of that. So I don't know, just a thought.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I actually had a question I wanted to give.
Yes.
I mean, I have a few, but I'll just ask the one. So actually regarding the community garden, I think it's a wonderful idea. I think the more we have in Chula Vista, the more we're able to touch these certain communities in these pockets. So for Northwest Chula Vista, which is D and Woodlawn, it's a great opportunity for them to get involved in the community. As Commissioner Cruz mentioned, having students at Feaster being participating in the community garden would be excellent. I would actually suggest also putting an age-friendly community factor in it, having seniors also involved in it, have them and the students join together in creating a healthy Chula Vista, and maybe getting the garden club from the senior center involved to help out with the go-tos and how to do it properly.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. I know that Stacy has been working and talking with the Feaster School, and we will continue to seek other participants once that is implemented, and once we have an agency that can manage the maintenance of the garden, then we definitely will come up with ways to bring more participants and more users to the site.
A question.
Yes.
Hi, is there a way to bring back the image? I can't see. Okay, so I love this idea. Actually, I used to live right next door to where this park is going to be located, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity, not just for the students at Feaster, resume back to in-person learning, but like Chair Crawford said, I think for the seniors that live in the mobile home complex, they're going to find this beneficial. It's right next door to where they live. So I appreciate you all creating this opportunity. As a former resident neighborhood, I mean, and I guess as a mom, I see the street here on Woodlawn Avenue, and from my experience living there, I noticed that cars drive really fast there. But also coming from, east to west on that same street, I don't remember, I think the street is not Flower, but the street right before Flower. where Zorba's is located. That street too, it has a tendency to attract faster drivers. So I guess my question is, in addition to building this park, are we going to also maybe invest in some speed bumps or more signs for distracted drivers and for those that are driving maybe a little too fast?
Yes, absolutely. You know, at this point, we haven't discussed that with our traffic engineering team. However, I think it's a great idea, and we have always talked about making this a more safer connection between the school and the park. And maybe not as part of this master plan, but in addition to it later, we can create that safety and that connection from the school to the park. And then we will definitely discuss it with our traffic engineering team so that they can assess the situation and whether they can recommend adding some speed bumps. Because, you know, they have to do a study, they have to analyze whether there is a need for it, and then they'll make a recommendation. But it's something that we can definitely bring up and discuss with them, because I agree, it needs to be a safer path for all the users to be able to go to the park.
And you bring up a great point. I think that we could also take a look at the Safe Routes for Schools plans that have been developed for Feaster to see if there was anything that could potentially be implemented in conjunction with this park.
I was going to add just one more thing in participating with Feaster. My daughter is still a student there, but she's on her way out. Something that I think this park could be really helpful toward is becoming a safe zone for student drop-off and pickups. Feaster is known for attracting a lot of traffic in the mornings and in the evenings for pickup and drop-off. So I think this could become again, pickup and drop-off for students and parents.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to add, kind of in the spirit of safety, and I'm sure, I'm just double checking, but I know as we're continuing to age, people are starting to rely on walkers and a lot of other canes to make sure that they're stable as they walk. Is a lot of the ground there going to be flat and able to be walked on by seniors that want to use the park?
Are you talking about the grading of the park itself, or are you talking about the grading of the street?
No, the park.
The park. Yes. Yes, it's very level.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Hi, this is Alan Rodriguez. I love the design. I like what a previous commissioner said about measuring the length of the path and maybe advertising that, like, oh, if you do the loop, you walked half a mile or something like that for people's education. Some other parks that have been done recently have those like exercise equipment installed. I'm not sure if you mentioned anything like that.
At this point, we don't have any exercise equipment, but that is something that we can take a look at. I mean, if we can fit it in.
Yeah, if there's room or interest. And then I would also agree with intergenerational gardening activities. The gardening club, as mentioned at the senior center, had interest in the past in working with an elementary school or other schools and having their master gardeners teach the next generation gardening techniques. So I would be all for that.
Yes, it's something that we can definitely look into. We do have some spaces that we can utilize for that purpose. It's a matter of maybe reallocating some of the amenities and creating that space for exercising, and also looking at the cost.
I was just thinking, because it is so kind of hidden, that area kind of to the, set back a little bit. And I've seen other parks around Chula Vista that are kind of hidden. And sometimes when there's nobody there, they look, kind of like, do I want to go there on my own? And so I don't know how much it would cost or if it's even feasible, but what about like having like a welcome sign, or I don't know, something to make it like welcoming to come into the area. I see that you have a crosswalk I see some greenery, but it looks like the playground is a little bit more deep set in, and obviously then the garden is way in the back. But I don't know. It's just I don't know exactly if a welcome sign would do it, but something to make it welcoming when you're going in there. I'm just thinking when we go to downtown Chula Vista, I know it's completely different, but that just welcome sign there that you're in the village is appealing.
And they have lights as well.
Yeah, something
in the
like
park.
that. Yeah, I don't. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so the park will have an entry monument that you can see from the street, and it will also have pedestrian lighting in addition to the existing street lighting that we have there now. So yes, the park will have a signage, like an entry sign, visible from the street.
Will it be more colorful? Because I've seen other Chula Vista parks and it's just like wood brown sign. Is it that what you're thinking of to match it with the other ones, or something a little bit more appealing?
You know, we haven't designed that yet. It's something that would be developed as far as part of the construction documents. At this point, this is just a master plan. So once we get funding for construction, that's when we get into refining some of these elements and some of these amenities and create a construction document. And that's when we would design that entry monument. So with your feedback, we will pay more attention to make this a more welcoming sign and not have just a wooden sign.
Yeah, just a thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you. Any other comments?
Do any other commissioners have any questions left for staff?
See, Sonic, Gio, if you could move to the last slide. So the next part of this is to talk about Eucalyptus Park, and then you can do public comments for both parks at the very end. But Tim Farmer is going to be presenting on Eucalyptus Park and working with Gio on this one.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Tim Farmer. I am the Parks and Recreation Administrator overseeing Parks and Recreation. In addition to Patty Davis Park, we are also looking at applying for a Prop 68 grant to improve Eucalyptus Park. As you can notice on this picture here, the orange or pinkish diagram there is currently unimproved, and that can actually be extended further into the grove of trees. If you've been to Eucalyptus Park, it is a 20-acre park. A lot of the park is programmed with amenities like tennis courts, dog park, a number of baseball fields, playground, picnic area, and a basketball court. However, a lot of the ground is still unimproved, and we're looking to provide more recreational opportunities for the community. And that space is still quite large. So today we're going to ask for your input on what you'd like to see at this park, where you'd like to see it, and any design details that you'd like to go in that as well. So Gio, if you can switch over to the design charrette. So we'll have the overhead diagram similar to what we just posted, but it will not have any anything on there except for these dots on the side. So this is almost like a sticker diagram. So if you say that you want to have a bike skills park over by the Eucalyptus Grove, Gio can drag that along and then put the comment in. So this is the floor open to the commission, and looking forward to any feedback and any input that you can provide for this park here.
Is there some sort of bike trail or something like that in the plans? I had heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not.
Currently, there's no bike amenity in the park. However, we have been talking and looking into options to put that in this park and in this grant opportunity. So one of the things that we were looking at is either having a pump track that can be used by bikes, skateboards, any wheeled activities, or we can have the hillside slope that's where the Eucalyptus Grove is, have some trails running through there. What would you prefer?
Yeah, I think actually the skating, a skateboarding park would be really useful. I think that would benefit a lot of the teenagers in our community.
Mm-hmm.
As would some sort of biking activity.
This is Mary Cruz. Is there a walking path, or can there be one, say the perimeter of it or something?
Currently, there is not, but that's a great comment, and I think we can look at seeing how we can fashion a walking path around there. I know there are some elevation changes, and currently the accessibility between the two baseball fields on the left and then the rest of the park on the right, it's quite a drop, and the current path is dilapidated and not accessible. So that's something that we'd also be looking at including in this grant.
Thank you.
Is there an opportunity for a soccer field converting maybe one of the, I mean, and I don't know if there's been a recent survey done, but is there a way to get information on what youth would prefer to play more of? Because I know when the parks that I go to, I've seen people make baseball fields into soccer fields. So I don't know if you've got any feedback about that.
Yeah, we do have a significant number of children playing soccer in our city. Soccer is one of the continuing growing sports. It's not the fastest growing sport, but it is being maintaining the participation, and that's one area that we've also looked at for a soccer field would be that blank space just below the basketball court, maybe providing a lighted soccer field. All three of those baseball fields and softball fields get used quite extensively. So we probably wouldn't recommend swapping those for a soccer field, but looking at including a smaller size, maybe an arena soccer field down in that bottom section is a good idea.
That's great. And then I forgot, did you guys say you had a dog park on here or no?
Correct. In the upper left-hand corner of the park, there's a dog park that was it was put together by Councilwoman Ben Susan a few years ago, and I know it wasn't funded very heavily, so there are some issues that we have at that dog park. It's just wood chips. A lot of the fences don't have a bottom rail, so dogs can get out of a lot of the areas. The entryway it just opens up into dirt and wood chips. So we'd if that's a recommendation by the community, we'd want to spruce up the dog park more.
I would recommend it right now because of the pandemic. We're seeing a lot of pandemic puppies. I have one of them, and I keep looking for parks, and it's great how popular they are. Roar Park has one that's very well utilized, and I think it'd be a great way to respond to what's going on to an increase activity and healthy lifestyle for the entire family.
Yeah, and isn't that whole area surrounded by apartments as well?
The apartments are more on the southern side of the park, but yeah, there's a significant multi-family housing.
Yeah, so maybe I don't know if they allow pets in those, but that would be a good, dog park to add to their, like Commissioner Merrick also said, for those that are, stuck at home with COVID and good release.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are there any restrooms at this park? Because there's a lot going on, but I know you guys can highlight it's not an activity, but are there plenty of restrooms? It looks like it's a pretty big area to cover.
Yeah, so we do have restrooms and on the upper section by the two baseball fields, as well as down the lower section, right next to the outfield fence of the baseball field. So we do have two separate restroom facilities in that park.
Okay, thanks.
There's a blank canvas. Looking for any more input?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Commissioner De Murguia. So if I could comment, I do like the idea of the dog park. I agree that it is something needed, but keeping it more secure so the dogs are not able to get out. I really like the idea of having a place for smaller dogs separate from larger dogs, if that's possible. And also, I love the idea of a walking path, especially if it's surrounded by, the area is surrounded by multifamily. Along the walking path, if there's an opportunity to add the exercise stations that were, that would be nice, giving residents an opportunity to remain healthy or get healthy. I like the idea of all of the open space fields. Are those what's needed in the city right now? Is that, it sounds like soccer is definitely for sure. And you said the other fields are used as well. I know in the communities that we're building, this is probably way off base for this area, but I don't know. We have tennis courts. Is that just completely off base for this area? Anything tennis? I don't even know if that's a popular sport anymore. I like the open fields, and all the other comments I made. I thought I would just toss that out as something to think about. Thank you.
That's great. So to answer your question, so one, yeah, I think all sports fields are in high demand in Chula Vista. We have a significant amount of children, especially now, playing youth sports. Currently, they're not able to have any competitions or have any close contact, but even so, they're still out there practicing and doing skills and drills, and not just baseball, soccer, lacrosse, almost any sport you can imagine. Tennis, we actually do have 4 tennis courts on site here currently. That is one of the sports that was on a decline. Tennis and golf were on a significant decline before COVID, but now that COVID hit, they are on a stiff uprising. Along with tennis, we do have pickleball as a big growing sport in our community, and we just converted a court out at 2 tennis courts at Mackenzie Creek Park to 8 pickleball courts. But I think with the use of these tennis courts, I don't know if we'd want to overlay the pickleball courts here, or maybe look at an option to put additional tennis courts or additional pickleball courts.
I like the idea of adding pickleball because that is a new, right? It's relatively new.
Correct.
And I know it's very popular, and just anything that would encourage residents in the area to utilize the park, I think is great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I had another follow-up question that could be, I'm looking for input from everybody here. The mention of exercise stations along a walking path. So one of the questions I had just for parks in general, but also for this project, would something like Norman Park, where you have all the exercise stations in one section, be ideal versus having them spread throughout a walking path? What would be the most preferential way of putting exercise stations in a park?
I like them spread out so people can move personally, and they have something to look forward to versus everyone congregating in one area.
Okay.
I would agree with that. I think it's good to keep it separate, and then you don't feel it's not like a gym. It's more you're in that open space, and I don't know. That would be my preference, but I don't know what the other commissioners feel.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah,
I do have a question regarding on the walking path. Do you have, like, every so often, like maybe a bench or some sort of seating?
We can definitely put that in the request.
All right, thank you.
This is Commissioner DeMurguia. Sorry, I had one more thought. Along with the bench and seating, which is an excellent comment, shade. We need shade. Do you have shade out there?
There's shade along there's a lot of trees in this park, but when you're out in the open, it is pretty stark. So we can look at shade. Are you talking about shade along the walking path, or just shade generally?
By when you have the seating areas, if somebody, yeah, just so it's covered, because then it's more welcoming. Otherwise, you're just out in the blazing hot sun, and we know it gets hot in the summer.
Yep.
I was going to ask, that area where all the trees are, is that like, can you go in there, or is it just trees and then it's just what's my word I'm looking for? It's just all compact, a bunch of trees where it's not safe, or what is that area right there?
So that's a significant slope. It is accessible. You can walk through there. There are a couple of buildings down below. So right behind the softball field, the backstop of the softball field, there's a maintenance shed, and then we also have a couple storage containers that are there that we're looking to relocate in the future. But there are a lot of areas down there that can be accessible. It's just not cleared out, and it's not improved. It's just an open slope area with a lot of trees.
Okay, got it.
So it is programmable based on the space and the area around there. I wouldn't just go out there and start doing stuff right now without having some improvements. But like I said, with a bike trail through there, that might be something to consider because it does have that natural slope built in.
Yeah, bike trail through there would be great.
Or you could have a more gradual, like easy level walking path, and then one that has more variation and strenuous uphill walking.
That's good.
Probably moderate.
Hi, my name's Emily. I actually was just curious, is a pond feasible? Because I'm a huge fan of just water, the sound of water, because I live over here on Hilltop, and so we do have just, the stream that goes through, so it seems pretty peaceful. So I was just curious if that's feasible there.
We can definitely consider that. Where would you recommend locating that in this park?
To be honest, I haven't been in that park, so I'm not too familiar with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have a couple more of these design meetings. So if anybody would like to go and take a visit to the park in the next couple weeks, and then we can respond out when our next design workshops are going to be, and so you can provide even more input on top of this.
I'm sorry if you already mentioned it. Were there picnic benches?
There are picnic benches, and there are some shade structure gazebos in the park right now. But if that's something that you would recommend us to add, then we can put that in the request.
I have a comment about a pond that someone brought up just a few moments ago. I think that's a fantastic idea, and I see that a lot on the east side of Chula Vista. And you're right, it's very peaceful, and it can attract a lot of people to the park. I would say there is an area where I'm assuming folks can have volleyball nets. It's like right next to the playground. Depending on how large the pond is, if it does go into effect, I would recommend that area because it also gives visibility to people passing by, so they'll be able to see it. I want to say that Commissioner Murphy is on point with the skate park idea. I think that is a fantastic idea. And again, I mostly see these parks concentrated in East Chula Vista. So if we can incorporate that at Eucalyptus Park, I think that's fantastic. Also, in my experience as a resident in this neighborhood is most people use Eucalyptus Park for organized birthday celebrations. Like anytime there's a child's party, Eucalyptus Park. So I heard earlier in the presentation that there's going to be a gazebo for rent at the park next to the mobile home place on Woodlawn. My recommendation, if the city's trying to make a little bit of money, is to continue to to do that at Eucalyptus Park and maybe add more of these gazebos so people can have multiple celebrations in the future, especially around summertime. The other thing I was going to say is basketball is really popular in this part of town. So the basketball court that is there now attracts only a few people because there's only 2 nets. So maybe expanding that and making the basketball courts more enticing for folks that want to play basketball. And in the future too, just, I'm a big picture type of person. Maybe incorporating the police department and the local youth to play joint basketball games there. And I think someone mentioned earlier, but the signal was lost on my end. I think we do have tennis courts at this park.
This is Commissioner De Murguia again. Do you also have, with the picnic areas, I assume you have barbecue stations? Yes? No?
Yes, most of our gazebos here have hot coal barbecues installed next to them.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I'm really enjoying all the ideas we have for Eucalyptus Park, and it's been in the community for such a long time, and in my childhood as well. I do want to keep the integrity of as much green space as it has, because I think that's something that's really useful for a lot of seniors and a lot of people to use for recreational activity. I do agree that tennis is probably not one of our most biggest sports in the community and maybe in county-wide. So if we were to maybe use that and turn it into another basketball court, as Commissioner Hernandez-Nader brought up, that would be excellent. I just want to make sure that with all these cool upgrades, we don't really take away the integrity of the green space, because we don't have a lot of it in West Chula Vista to begin with, but these are all great ideas.
Yeah, agreed.
Sorry, this is Commissioner De Murguia again. When you mentioned that you were going to meet with us again on another plan, right? When that happens, could we see some sort of a rendering? It's always easier to visualize, so we make sure that we have a lot of green space, maintain that integrity while we're adding all these wonderful improvements. That would just be a suggestion if we could see some sort of a rendering. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and as we continue on with this process, we do have, like I said, we do have a few more design workshops, and one of our intentions is to come with this blank slate, where we want people to provide input without us kind of leading into what we want to be in the park. There are definitely some things that we would prefer in the park, but we want to have a blank slate so there can be that unsolicited input. Once we do get towards the end of the process, then we will hopefully have some sort of rudimentary schematic or design of what we are going to submit with our grant, and we can provide that information back out to the commission.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the commissioners? All right, I shall proceed. I will now call for a 2-minute pause to allow the public to submit any final comments on the item for deliberation.
Could I provide more information before we move on to the next item?
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. While you were discussing Eucalyptus Park, I had a chance to measure the trail that is being proposed on District Park. And very roughly, I came up with 768 linear feet. What that means is that it would take about 7 times for somebody to run that loop in order to reach a mile. So it's a little over 1/10 of a mile. That's it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that information. It's definitely very useful for us.
Thank you.
All right. And as a reminder, please refresh the view on your screen to ensure new comments appear. We will now continue to start the 2-minute pause. The commenting period for this item is now closed. Have the commissioners had enough time to read the submitted comments?
No comments were received via email or e-comments. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Any comments or questions before I move on to the third item?
Third item. Oh, staff comments.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Yes, please, Commissioner.
Oh yeah, I would just love to hear more about the city, from the city planning, about where the future locations of additional parks are going to be throughout the city, or maybe just general idea of what's in the works. If staff could let us know about that in the future.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. We will have them comment on what they could do for us on number 3. All right. The next item is item 3, which is staff comments. So bring it to staff to provide any comments they may have for the commissions.
This is Stacy. Just to address Commissioner Chair Rodriguez's comment, we can certainly look at bringing forward something about the parks master plan and include some timing on some of the parks that we foresee coming, if that's something that the commission is interested in seeing in the future. And then other than that, I do not have any comments tonight, but we do have Sean Ellis and Tim Farmer both on from the Recreation and Parks that may have some staff comments.
Hi, everybody.
Stacy,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to add to what Stacy just mentioned. And we can definitely bring information on future parks to you. But if you would like to access the Parks Master Plan online, if you go to figure 4-1, that is the map that shows all the locations of future parks.
And I can send that link out to everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean, Parks and Recreation, Principal Recreation Manager. First, I want to say thank you, Stacy, for putting us all together. This is a very informative meeting. This is our annual thing. In November, we always do a joint meeting, so thank you very much. Just to give you a quick update on what's going on in Norman Park Senior Center. The multi-purpose room floor has been completed. It is really nice. They took it all the way down to the original wood. It's really light color. So if you remember what it looked like, it was very dark wood. Now it's really light wood. It's really nice. So currently they are working on the roof, and after that is done, it's pretty much the area is going to be done. The whole center should be done on what we're working on. Unfortunately, all recreation centers are closed, but the outdoor area is open. The workout area, it is being cleaned periodically by recreation staff, but outdoor and the park area is open. I know the garden club will be meeting out in our park. We do have the longevity stick. They meet out there as well. So we are open to doing some outdoor classes and activities at Norman Park. And just recently, just to let you know, we hosted some voting polls in the new multi-purpose room as well. So, and that's about it. That's all I have for now. So once again, I just want to thank you, everybody, for coming out to this meeting.
Any further staff comments, Stacy?
No, thank you.
All right, so we will now move on to the next item, number 4, which is chair's comment. If you don't mind, Commissioner Rodriguez, did you have any comments you'd like to share with the rest of the commission?
Sure. And some people left now, so I can take my mask off. But it's good to see everybody. I know we're getting pandemic fatigue, but hang in there. COVID cases seem to be a little bit on the rise, so just want everyone to stay safe. wash your hands, wear a mask, and be careful. There's free testing is still widely available in the community. And if anyone has exposures, feels unwell, please get tested, see your doctor, get your flu shots. We're all here for you. And even if we can't be together physically, as hard as that is, especially this time of year, reach out and call the people that you care about and let them know you're thinking of them. That's it for my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. I guess I'll take the floor now. I just want to say thank you so much for this incredible presentation, 2 presentations. I really appreciate this special joint meeting. I want to thank Stacy for bringing us together once again this year and really giving us a great panel of people to come and present to us, both commissions. I particularly am very excited about the parks and what ARP has to do for us as well at the state level. But as mentioned earlier, we could definitely do something in the local level as well. So if anyone's interested, I strongly recommend we reach out to her and see what we could do to help out. On a unrelated topic to this meeting, I do want to let my commission know that the next meeting we have, I will be stepping down as chair. And I hope that we'll come together in our next normal meeting time to talk about our next chair. But I want to thank you all for being a part of this journey and continuing to commit the advocacy you have in our community. Thank you. Now, last item is item number 5, which is Commissioners' Board's comments. Does anyone want to start with any comments that they have before we end? All right, once again, I'm going to ask, are there any commissioners or board members that would like to have any comments before we adjourn? All right. Well, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, the special joint meeting of the Commission on Aging and Healthy Chula Vista Advisory Commission. It is currently 5:44, and I'm adjourning it for the next Chula Vista Advisory Commission scheduled for December 10th, 2020 at 4 p.m. and for the Commission on Aging scheduled for January 13th, 2021 at 1 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm now going to turn the recorder off.